so complicated. Hey, I'm Jennifer Bleam, Cybersecurity Sherpa. I help MSPs take their cybersecurity plans to market. And one of the questions I get all the time is, how should I pick out a marketing automation tool or a CRM? That's what we're going to be talking about today. But before we get started, I'm going to ask you to subscribe to my channel. Almost every week, I put out a new tip or trick on marketing or sales, all about cybersecurity and managed services. So subscribe and let's get started. So I remember when I started this business, I knew that picking out a marketing automation tool was a really big, pivotal decision. And to make matters worse, I knew it was not something I could shift away from easily. And so all of that meant that it felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders while I was picking this out. I did not have a large budget, and at the same time, I could not afford to make a mistake. So it felt very overwhelming. I want to take you through the 4 steps that I took to pick the CRM that I use, the marketing automation tool that I use, in hopes that it will help you as well. So step number 1 is to list the features that you must have. And this is a great first step with any kind of tool that you're looking for, whether it's a PSA tool or a new RMM tool. List the features that you must have, list some that would be nice to have, and then list some of the ones that right now are just fluff. You do not see yourself ever using them. You don't see how they could apply to you. Maybe they're good for smaller companies or larger companies, but you don't need them. So then you have a list that also helps you when you are in the sales process and you're talking to a salesperson and they're talking about how wonderful XYZ feature is. And you know that that's a feature that's on your fluff list, which means that feature doesn't matter to you at all. So for most MSPs, the things that are going to go in the must-have column are going to be the ability to fulfill on a lead magnet, which somebody fills out a form on your website, which may or may not be created in your marketing automation tool. And then somehow that lead magnet needs to be emailed to them. That's probably something you want to have happen inside of your marketing automation tool. The second thing that you probably want is a drip sequence or a nurture sequence, where when people don't buy from you, or people do download that lead magnet, that you can continue to drip on them every week or every couple of weeks. So those are on the must-have column. The second column, which is, it would be really nice to have these things, would be potentially creating landing pages or forms that you can then embed inside of your website, or things like lead tracking. That is a nice to have. I wouldn't necessarily say it is mandatory, but definitely nice to have. And then there is certainly fluff that all marketing automation tools have that don't really apply to MSPs. The second thing I want you to look at is, of course, the cost. And so obviously there could be some onboarding costs, some upfront costs. So you're going to want to know what that is, what the costs are ongoing. And then this really surprised me. Some of these marketing automation tools have training, but you have to pay for the training. So it would be good to know that upfront as well. Is there training that you have access to, and is it included, or is it something that you have to pay extra for? And maybe is that something that's included if you're at a higher rate, but if you're at the entry level of the software, you have to pay extra for it. So just find that out, because it is a cost to factor in. The other thing is to find out whether or not any of these costs, especially the onboarding cost, is negotiable. Sometimes they will have periodic sales where that onboarding cost will be cut in half, or the onboarding cost will be waived. Usually the monthly is what the monthly is, but it's always worth checking to see if there are any discounts available, perhaps through a trade group or something of that nature. I would also encourage you, it's super tempting to compare the cost of the low column of each of these. So as you know, software companies have a low, medium, high. They always say the medium is the best value, but yet our tendency when we are shopping is to compare the lowest of product A to the lowest of product B and just do that math. Murphy's Law, somewhere along the way, you will probably want to upgrade to the medium. There will be features that today you don't think you need, but in a year or 2 years, you may need the features that are in that medium level. So go ahead and compare the low to the low, but then shift up to the medium and compare that medium column price to the other company's medium price as well. The third thing that I want you to look at when you're picking out a marketing automation tool is how easy it is to use. Now, there's two ways to do this. One is to go out to review sites like Capterra or G2 and skim through some of those, the reviews that are left. But an easier way to do this is to say, if I wanted to do a webinar in a month, so I roll this out on the first of the month and I need to do a webinar on the first of the next month, and I want a landing page, I want that form fill to sync over to Zoom, I want to tag people so that I know who's registered. When they are tagged, I want to send them a thank you for registering, don't forget to show up, and all of those pieces that need to be in place. If you wanted to do all of that, how long would it take the average user to make that happen? Could you have a webinar in 1 month, which means that really in 2 weeks, you would need to start all of the marketing and have all of the pieces in place? Or is that a 90-day lift? Or is it a 6-month lift? That is going to give you much of a better idea on how heavy this is. What's the learning curve look like? Now, for some of you, you're planning to simply hire an expert to roll this out for you, maybe to manage it ongoing. And so that's not a huge concern. But for those of you that are thinking you are going to manage this yourself, maybe you're the marketing manager or you're the owner and you love technology, it would be nice to know if this is a very easy WYSIWYG editor or if you almost need coding skills in order to roll the tool out. And then the final thing that I want you to think about when you are selecting your CRM is all of the things that we look at because we are in the MSP world. So some of these are from a technology standpoint, some of these are from a security standpoint, some are merely customer service, but it's the unique lens that we have because we're in the technology world. So these are things like, does it connect to Zapier? Because you're probably going to have to create Zaps for some things that just don't natively integrate. What does it natively integrate with? Does it have an open API? Then some of the other features are, what about security features and uptime? Where are their data centers? Backups are huge. A lot of these databases and marketing automation tools do not allow you to back up at all. They will back it up. Well, if they're backing it up, find out how you get to access that data. Who owns that data? Is that still your data? Surprisingly, again, to me, many of these so-called backups will back up the CRM piece. So the names and the email addresses, maybe phone numbers, maybe the tags, but all of the automation pieces are not necessarily backed up. So that means if you have a 52 email drip sequence, those are not necessarily backed up. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. So you are going to want to find that out. And if you decide on a tool that has a less than adequate backup, then you may need to put some secondary pieces in place, a manual backup of sorts. So for example, if you can't back up your automation sequences, then you should be saving them as a Word document and call it nurture sequence 1, nurture sequence email 1, email 2, email 3. So then that Word document acts as a poor man's backup of sorts. So all of those things from a technology standpoint. And then again, because we are in the MSP world, I want you to think about support. Again, something I was surprised by is that live support is not always an option. Ideally, you would be able to call, you'd be able to do live chat support, and you'd be able to send in an email, which would create a ticket and you get a response later. But sometimes you have a 24-hour SLA. And let's just be real. Many of us are often really beating against that deadline at the last minute. We all know we should plan ahead. We have great plans to plan ahead, and yet it doesn't happen. And so we are up at midnight or 3 o'clock in the morning trying to get everything set up for this event or this lunch and learn or this webinar, and something isn't working. And it would be infuriating to have a 24-hour SLA. You would be ballistic. It would be better to find that out ahead of time and then allow that to be a factor in whether or not you choose to do business with that marketing automation tool. So that's it. 4 very simple, straightforward steps to help you select your next CRM or marketing automation tool. I hope that helps, and I'll be back next week with another tip for you. And I initially was looking at some big, expensive tools like Salesforce with this huge budget or huge